The day I married Nathan Blackwood was the happiest day of my life. I was 23 years old, dressed in a white gown that had cost more than my parents' house, standing in a cathedral that could have held 1,000 people. Nathan stood at the altar, tall and impossibly handsome, his dark eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my heart race. He took my hands in his, and I felt like I was floating. He said his vows with such conviction, such passion, that I believed every word. I believed he loved me. I was wrong. I didn't find out the truth until 7 years later, on the night of our anniversary. We had been married for 7 years, and I had spent every one of them believing I was the luckiest woman in the world. Nathan was a billionaire, a self-made man who had built an empire from nothing. He was kind, attentive, and generous. He gave me everything I could ever want: a penthouse in the city, a villa in the south of France, a wardrobe full of designer clothes, and all the jewelry I could dream of. But he never gave me his heart. I didn't realize it at first. I thought his occasional absences were because of work. I thought his silence was because he was tired. I thought his distance was because he was just a reserved man who didn't know how to express his emotions. I made excuses for him. I told myself he loved me in his own way. The truth was a knife that I didn't see coming. It was our 7th anniversary. I had planned a romantic dinner at our penthouse, candles, roses, a private chef. I had spent the entire day preparing, making sure everything was perfect. I wanted to surprise him with something special, something that would remind him why he had married me. He came home at 9 o'clock, 3 hours late. I didn't complain. I had learned not to complain. I simply smiled and kissed him and told him dinner was ready. But he didn't eat. He just sat at the table, staring at his wine glass, his expression distant. "Nathan," I said, "what's wrong?" He looked up at me, and there was something in his eyes that I had never seen before. Guilt. And something else. Something worse. Resignation. "Maya," he said, "we need to talk." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. I didn't want to hear what he had to say. I could feel it coming, like a storm on the horizon, and I knew it would destroy everything. "About what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He took a deep breath and set down his wine glass. "I need to tell you the truth. The truth I should have told you 7 years ago." I couldn't breathe. "What truth?" He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I married you for the wrong reasons, Maya. I married you because I needed a wife, a companion, someone to share my life with. But I never loved you. Not the way you deserve to be loved." The world tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady myself. "What are you saying?" "There's someone else," he said. "There's always been someone else. Her name is Evelyn. I've been in love with her for 11 years. She was the one I wanted to marry. But she married someone else. And I was broken. I was desperate. And I married you because I thought I could move on." I stared at him, my mind spinning. 11 years. 11 years he had loved another woman. 11 years he had been carrying a torch for someone else. And I had been the consolation prize. The one he had settled for. "Did you ever love me?" I asked, my voice cracking. He looked down at his hands. "I tried to. I really did. But I can't lie to you anymore. I never stopped loving Evelyn. I don't think I ever will." I felt something inside me shatter. 7 years. 7 years of my life. 7 years of love and devotion and sacrifice. And it meant nothing. It had never meant anything. "Why did you marry me?" I asked. "If you never loved me, why did you marry me?" "Because you were there," he said. "You were kind. You were patient. You were everything a man could want in a wife. And I thought that if I married someone like you, I could forget about Evelyn. But I was wrong. I was so wrong." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "How long have you been seeing her?" "I never stopped," he said, and his voice was flat, emotionless. "Evelyn and I have been together the entire time. We never ended things. I've been having an affair with her since before we got married. She's been waiting for me. She's been patient. She's been everything." The word hit me like a physical blow. Affair. He had been having an affair with Evelyn for 7 years. 7 years of lies. 7 years of betrayal. 7 years of me thinking I was the luckiest woman in the world while he was laughing at me behind my back. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking. "Maya." I said, "Get out." I pointed toward the door. "Get out of my sight. I never want to see you again." He stood up slowly, his expression unreadable. "I'll have my things sent to my lawyer. You can keep the penthouse. You can keep everything. I'll make sure you're taken care of." "I don't want your money," I spat. I don't want anything from you. I just want you out of my life." He nodded and walked out the door. I heard the elevator doors close, and then I was alone. Alone in the penthouse that had never felt like home. Alone with the ghosts of a marriage that had been a lie from the very beginning. I sank to the floor and I cried. I cried for the 7 years I had wasted. I cried for the love I had given so freely, only to have it thrown back in my face. I cried for the woman I had been, the woman who had believed in fairy tales and happy endings. That woman was gone now. And I knew I would never get her back. The weeks that followed were a blur of lawyers, papers, and endless phone calls. The divorce proceedings were swift and efficient. Nathan didn't fight me on anything. He gave me everything I asked for, and more. It was as if he was trying to buy his freedom, trying to erase the guilt he felt by throwing money at the problem. I wanted to refuse it all. I wanted to prove that I didn't need him, that I could make it on my own. But my lawyer advised me to take it. "You've earned it," she said. "He owes you that much." So I took it. I took the penthouse and the villa and the money. And I started building a new life. I threw myself into my work. I had always been passionate about interior design, and now I had the resources to turn that passion into a career. I opened a small studio, started taking on clients, and soon found myself with more work than I could handle. It was a welcome distraction, something to fill the empty hours that used to be filled with thoughts of Nathan. I didn't think about him. I refused to. I pushed him out of my mind and focused on the future. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape the past. I saw Evelyn for the first time at a charity gala, 3 months after the divorce was finalized. She was beautiful, tall, blonde, with a smile that could light up a room. She was wearing a diamond necklace that I recognized. It was the one Nathan had given me for our 5th anniversary. The one he had said was a symbol of his love. She was wearing it to the gala, as if it was a trophy. As if she was proud of what she had done. I couldn't breathe. I stood there, frozen, staring at the woman who had destroyed my marriage. She was standing beside Nathan, laughing at something he had said, her hand on his arm. She looked so confident, so secure, like she owned the world. And Nathan looked at her the way he had never looked at me. With love. With adoration. With the kind of devotion I had always longed for. I felt like I was going to be sick. I turned away, but it was too late. She had already seen me. "Maya," she called out, her voice dripping with false warmth. "It's so good to see you." She walked over to me, leaving Nathan standing alone in the middle of the crowd. I could feel his eyes on me, but I refused to look at him. "Evelyn," I said, forcing a smile. "I wish I could say the same." She laughed, a tinkling sound that made me want to scream. "Oh, Maya. I know this must be hard for you. But I want you to know that I never meant to hurt you. Nathan and we've been through so much together. It was never about you. It was about us." I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "It was never about me? You slept with my husband for 7 years. You destroyed my marriage. And you're telling me it was never about me?" She tilted her head, her smile not wavering. "Nathan was always going to end up with me. You were just a detour. A temporary distraction. But now that the detour is over, he's finally where he belongs. With me." I felt a cold fury rise in my chest. "You think you've won, don't you? You think you have everything." She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I know I have everything. I have Nathan. I have his love. I have his heart. And you? You have nothing." I wanted to slap her. I wanted to scream at her. But I didn't. I just looked her in the eyes and said, "We'll see about that." I walked away, leaving her standing there with her victorious smile. But I didn't go home. I went to my studio, sat down at my desk, and started planning. Because I was not going to let them get away with this. I had known Nathan for 11 years, even though he had been married to me for only 7. I had seen how he operated, how he thought, how he made his deals. He was ruthless, brilliant, and relentless. But he also had a weakness. Evelyn. She was his weakness, his blind spot. And I was going to use that weakness to bring him down. I started by digging into his business. I had access to all his financial records, all his deals, all his secrets. I knew his company inside and out. And I knew exactly where to hit him. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. It was about making sure that he never forgot what he had done to me. And if I could destroy him in the process, so much the better. I started quietly, buying up shares of his company through shell corporations, building a silent stake that no one knew about. I made connections, cultivated allies, gathered information. I was patient. I was meticulous. And I was relentless. And then, one night, I received an invitation to a party at Nathan's penthouse. It was his birthday, and he was celebrating with all the people who mattered in his world. I knew I wasn't invited. But I had an invitation anyway. I had made sure of it. I showed up in a red dress, the one that made Nathan's eyes linger just a little too long whenever I wore it. I walked into the penthouse like I owned the place. I felt the stares, the whispers, the shock. Nathan walked over to me, his face pale. "Maya? What are you doing here?" I smiled. "I came to wish you a happy birthday, Nathan." "Is that so wrong?" Evelyn was right behind him, her eyes blazing with jealousy. "You're not welcome here." "Oh, I think I am." I gestured to the room behind them. "I paid for half of this penthouse, remember? I think I have every right to be here." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Maya, I don't want to cause a scene. Just leave." "I'm not going anywhere," I said. "Not until I've said what I came to say." I stepped past him and walked to the center of the room. I could feel the crowd's eyes on me, waiting for the drama to unfold. "Hello, everyone," I said, my voice carrying across the room. "I'm sure you all remember me. I'm Nathan's ex-wife. The one he cheated on for 7 years with the woman who is currently clinging to his arm." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Evelyn's face went white. Nathan stepped forward, his eyes dangerous. "Maya, stop." "Why should I?" I asked. "You didn't stop when you were sleeping with her behind my back. You didn't stop when you were lying to me every day. So why should I stop now?" The room was silent. I could see the shame on Nathan's face, the anger in Evelyn's eyes. And I felt a surge of satisfaction. "You built this empire on lies, Nathan," I said. "And now I'm going to tear it all down." I turned and walked out, leaving the chaos behind me. The months that followed were a chess match. Nathan tried to fight back, but I was always one step ahead. I had his secrets, his weaknesses, and I used them all. I revealed the affair to the press, knowing that the scandal would damage his reputation. I leaked documents showing that he had been embezzling from his own company to fund his secret life with Evelyn. And when he was forced to step down from his position as CEO, I was there to pick up the pieces. His company was in turmoil, and I was there to buy up the shares that were being sold off in a panic. I had been planning this for months, and now the moment was finally here. I went to the board meeting, dressed in a tailored black suit that cost more than most people's cars. The board members looked at me with a mixture of respect and wariness. They knew who I was. They knew what I had done. "Maya," the board chairman said, rising to greet me. "We were not expecting you today." "I'm sure you weren't," I said. "But I'm here to take control of the company. I am the majority shareholder now. And I have a few changes to make." The meeting was brief. I laid out my plan for the company, a vision that was radically different from Nathan's. The board members listened, and by the time the meeting was over, they were convinced. I was the new CEO of the company Nathan had built. The company he had used to finance his affair. The company he had stolen from me. And I was going to make sure he never forgot it. Nathan showed up at my office a week later. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his shirt rumpled, his eyes red. He walked into my office without knocking and stood in front of my desk. "You did this," he said. "You destroyed everything." I didn't look up from the papers I was signing. "I didn't destroy anything. You destroyed it yourself. I just picked up the pieces." "Maya, this is insane. You can't do this. This is my company. I built it from nothing." "And I destroyed it from nothing," I said, finally meeting his eyes. "Consider it a lesson in consequences." He stared at me, and for a moment, I saw something that looked like fear. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm sorry." "I don't care if you're sorry," I said. "I don't care about you at all." I meant it. The man who had once been my whole world was now nothing to me. He had taken everything from me, and I had taken everything from him. We were even. I thought that would be the end of it. I had won. I had gotten my revenge. I should have felt satisfied. But I didn't. I still felt empty, hollow, like a piece of me was missing. Evelyn came to see me a few days later. She was dressed in designer clothes, her hair perfectly done, but her eyes were red and her makeup was smudged. She looked like someone who had been crying for hours. "Maya," she said, her voice shaking. "Please. I'm begging you. Stop this. Nathan has lost everything. He's nothing without his company. Please, I'm begging you, let him rebuild." I looked at her, the woman who had stolen my husband, who had made a fool of me for 7 years. And I felt nothing. Not pity. Not anger. Nothing. "Why should I?" I asked. "Why should I give him anything? Because I'm begging you, she said, collapsing to her knees in front of me. I know I don't deserve your mercy. I know I was terrible to you. But I love him. I love him more than anything in the world. I watched her, and a realization hit me. She was right. She had everything I had ever wanted, his love, his devotion, his heart. And she was terrified of losing it. I could have taken pleasure in her fear. I could have dragged it out. But I was done. I was tired of the revenge, the anger, the hatred. Get up, I said. She looked up at me, confused. What? Get up. I walked around my desk and offered her my hand. I'm not going to destroy Nathan. I've already done enough. I've proven my point. Now I just want to move on. She took my hand, trembling. Thank you, Maya. Thank you. Don't thank me, I said. This isn't for you. This is for me. The final closure came at a small cafe in the city. Nathan and I sat across from each other, both of us cautious and guarded. The air between us was thick with the weight of everything we had been through. Maya, he said, his voice quiet and uncertain. I know I have no right to ask for anything. But I need to say this. I need you to know. I was wrong. I looked at him, his face etched with lines that hadn't been there before. The man who had once been untouchable was now broken, just like me. I know, I said. But that doesn't change anything. I know it doesn't, he said. But I need you to know that I regret what I did. Not because of the consequences, but because of you. Because of what I put you through. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It wasn't forgiveness, exactly, but it was the beginning of something. Acknowledgement. Understanding. Maybe even peace. Thank you, I said. For saying that. We sat in silence for a long moment. The waiter brought coffee, but neither of us touched it. What happens now? Nathan asked. Where do we go from here? Forward, I said. That's all we can do. We move forward. He nodded slowly. I'm going to leave, Maya. I'm going to leave the city, start over somewhere else. Evelyn and I are going to make a new life for ourselves. I just wanted you to know that I'm grateful for what you did. I felt something unexpected then. Not love, not forgiveness, not even respect. But a quiet kind of peace. The knowledge that I had done everything I could. And then the final closure came when I found myself walking away from the cafe. I didn't look back. I had already seen the ending, and it was exactly the peace I had been looking for all along. The years passed. I threw myself into my work, building a thriving business from the ashes of my marriage. I found new passions, new friends, new reasons to wake up in the morning. I also found myself volunteering at a shelter for victims of domestic abuse, using my experience to help other women rebuild their lives. It was the most rewarding thing I had ever done. Seeing the survivors grow strong and regain their confidence made me realize that my own journey was not just about revenge, but about healing. It was at the shelter that I met Daniel. He was a volunteer too, a kind and gentle man who had lost his wife to a car accident 4 years ago. There was something about him, the way he listened, the way he smiled, that made me feel safe. We started spending time together, talking about everything and nothing. And slowly, without me even realizing it, I fell in love. Daniel was everything Nathan was not. He was present, attentive, and genuine. He didn't have secrets. He didn't have a past he was hiding. He was just good. And for the first time in years, I let myself believe in love again. We got married in a small garden ceremony, surrounded by friends and family. Lena was my maid of honor. I had never felt so happy or so at peace. The darkness of the past was finally behind me, and I was ready to embrace the future. A few months after the wedding, I ran into Nathan at a charity gala. He was with Evelyn, and they seemed different. Softer. More at ease. He smiled when he saw me, and for the first time in years, he reached out and gave me a genuine smile. Maya, he said, his voice warm. You look beautiful. Thank you, I said. And you look happy. He nodded, his eyes meeting mine. I am happy, Maya. Not because of everything that happened, but because it led me here. To this moment. And I know that's thanks to you. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly, but it was the beginning of something. Acknowledgement. Understanding. Maybe even peace. Be happy, Nathan, I said. That's all I ever wanted for you. He nodded, and I watched as he walked away, his arm around Evelyn. They looked like they had found something rare and precious, a second chance. And I looked at Daniel, who was waiting for me by the door. He smiled, and I felt a surge of love that I had never thought I would feel again. I was free. Daniel and I bought a small house in the countryside, a cozy cottage with a garden full of flowers. We spent our weekends planting, cooking, and laughing. Life was simple, but it was full. It was the life I had always wanted, the life I thought I would never have. One evening, I was sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, when Daniel came out to join me. He sat down beside me, taking my hand in his. "Are you happy?" he asked. I looked at him, at the man who had made me believe in love again. And I smiled. "I'm happier than I ever thought I would be," I said. "Thank you." "For what?" "For saving me. For making me believe I was worth saving." He leaned over and kissed my forehead. "You always were, Maya. You just needed to see it for yourself." I leaned my head against his shoulder and watched the sun dip below the horizon. It was a beautiful sight. A perfect ending to a long and complicated journey. The past was behind me now. The future was bright. And I was finally, completely, at peace.